All right, the webinar is now live.
Oh, great. Okay. Welcome to the Library Commission's November 16th, 2020 meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Library Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. We'll begin with our roll call. I would like to introduce staff and Library Commission members present. Commissioners Mayrin Bujagic, Alan Cohen, David Earhart, Sukanya Guha, myself, Katie Hadrovich, and Yen Tran. I believe Kristen Leap still is not present. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And staff present include Nick Shegda, and Nick is the Assistant Library Services Director and also Assistant Community Services Director.
No, I just get one. I'm just the Assistant Library Services Director.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One's enough.
Just read the script. I thought you had more. Okay. And Nick is also our staff liaison for the Library Commission. Additionally, we've got, Sean Reinhardt, the Director of Library and Community Services, is here. And also we've got Judy Heron here. And Nick, would you please provide instructions to the Library Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Sure. Just a reminder to commission members that you should keep your cameras on and your microphone off until you're recognized by the chair. Raise your hand if you indicate that you want to speak. If a member of the public wants to speak during a public comment period, please notify me by either typing a message in the chat box or using that little raise the hand feature there in the webinar. Commissioners aren't looking at the chat window and they won't be responding to chat messages during the meeting. Public comments heard in the order it's received and limited to 3 minutes in length. When it's your turn for public comment, I will unmute you. You can also type your public comment into the chat window and then I would read that public comment aloud.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the Library Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the Library Commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The Library Commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the Library Commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Nick, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda?
We do have an attendee, so I'll open it up for public comment. If you have public comment for an item that's not on the agenda, please engage that raise hand function or type a note to me in the chat window. And I do not see any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to regular business. Under regular business, the Library Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Library Commission approval. Item D1 is to approve minutes from our October 19th, 2020 Library Commission meeting, which were included in an attachment for our agenda. Any clarifying questions from the commission before taking public comment? Nick, do we have any public comment on our agenda?
If there's any comment on the agenda.
I mean minutes, I'm sorry.
Minutes, on the minutes. Please go ahead and raise your hand. I don't see any.
Okay, then does any discussion of our minutes, corrections? No, okay. Do we need to take a motion for this, Nick, or can we just approve the minutes if there's no objections to or corrections?
I think we make a motion. That the city clerk is here, so she can smack me down if we don't, but I think we make a motion to approve and second.
Okay, in that case, do I have a motion and second regarding these minutes? Okay, Sukanya seems to be making the motion to approve the minutes, and Mayrin, you're seconding it, okay?
Okay,
And then I know you have to take a roll call, is that
we
correct?
call a roll. Commissioner Earhart,
Yes.
Commissioner Tran,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen,
Yes.
Chair Hadrovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Guha,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bunyagic. All right, the minutes are approved unanimously.
Good, thank you. All right, item D2 is a presentation, commission policies and procedures, roles and responsibilities. It was also an attachment on our agenda. And Nick, I think you're going to introduce our guest.
Yes, so every year the city clerk makes a presentation to all of the advisory bodies on advisory body roles and responsibilities. I bet she's going to include a refresher on the Brown Act, also known as the Open Meeting Act, just to sort of remind everyone of what your roles and responsibilities are. This evening, joining us is our city clerk, Judy Herron, and she'll be making the presentation. Judy, do you have screen share capabilities, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you to the entire advisory body here just for sharing your time with me, getting me on your agenda. It's truly appreciated. I'd like to confirm that you guys are able to see my screen. Yes? Okay, wonderful. So again, just thank you for scheduling some time on your agenda to review the commission committee policies and procedures, roles and responsibility today. As noted by the chair, attached to the agenda is City Council Procedure number CC-19-0004, which was adopted by the City Council on March 5th, 2019. And today we're going to be reviewing what is an advisory body work plan, the scope of authority of advisory bodies, roles and responsibilities of the chair, and then following up with any questions that any of the members may have. So all of Menlo Park's commission and committees, with the exception of Planning Commission, are advisory in nature. What does the term advisory in nature mean? The purpose of advisory bodies is to invite appointed community members to lend their valuable expertise to the City Council's current priorities. The City Council is the policy-making body, and the primary role of the advisory body is to provide judicious and thoughtful advice to the City Council. Here are a couple of examples of how advisory bodies can help in achieving City Council priorities. Advisory bodies can hear public testimony on the City Council's behalf, and this is typically done through either public comment or even public hearings at their meetings. Study referred matters and return recommendations and advise the City Council, and forward recommendations to the City Council for its consideration. And these are typically done through the advisory body work plan or work plan amendments that better align with City Council priorities. Apologize for that, don't want to go to the work plan yet. So there may be times when an advisory body's recommendations will not be sustained or will be modified by the City Council. And it's important for you to remember that this isn't a rejection of the integrity of the recommendation, but is just part of the process of community decision-making. And now, let's take a sec here to review the work plan. So the City Council provides direction to staff through their priority setting process. City Council actions and direction ultimately lay the foundation for all the work expected to be accomplished in that particular period. Similarly, each advisory body is required to develop an annual work plan that supports those priorities set by the City Council. Take a quick sec here to review the work plan process. So advisory bodies are to develop an annual work plan, which will be the foundation for the work performed by the advisory body in support of City Council priorities. The body must approve the work plan by a majority vote. The work plan must formally be presented to the City Council for feedback and approval according to the policy attached by September 30th of each year. Now, in light of the COVID-19 delay and the reactivation timeline of advisory body meetings, this year, the City Council received an information item with the status of each work plan, which provided more time for the advisory bodies to bring the work plan to City Council. And then finally, there is a required quarterly report out, which is typically done by the chair. Next, just to provide some clarity on the scope of authority, advisory bodies are not involved in the administration or operation of city departments. Members may not direct staff to initiate programs and may not conduct major studies or establish policy unless that is specified in their City Council approved work plan. So the staff liaison's role is to serve as the primary point of contact and resource for the advisory body. Their general tasks include provide a schedule of meetings, inform the advisory body on directions and priorities of the City Council, inform the advisory body of events, activities, policies, programs, anything that is occurring within the scope of the City Council approved work plan, ensuring that agenda items approved by the advisory body are brought forth in a timely manner, always taking into consideration City Council priorities and work plan. And finally, to take action minutes. Next on our agenda is to review the role and responsibilities of the chair. The chair is the presiding officer of the advisory body and is charged with preserving the order and decorum at the meetings. The chair will facilitate the involvement of all members of the advisory body and at the same time allow for adequate public participation. The chair can also limit members to the question under discussion and refrain the body from commenting or entering into conversation with speakers during public comments or public hearings until all speakers have been heard. And this is typically done by holding off on members' questions or comments until the public comment period has been officially closed, and refrain from discussions between public and the members, whether those are written or verbal. And lastly, in the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall act as the presiding officer. So in closing, the relationship of the advisory body members and staff is active, continuous, and nuanced. Both members and staff are motivated by the shared goal of furthering the city's best interests and assisting in achieving City Council priorities. At this time, that does conclude my presentation. Happy to answer any clarifying questions or respond to any public comment there might be on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herron. That was an excellent presentation. Are there any clarifying questions from anybody before we turn it over to public comment? No. Okay. In that case, Nick, do you want to see if there's any public comment on it?
I'm on mute. I can do that to myself now. So at this point, if there's anyone who would like to make public comment, please use that raise hand feature or type a message in the chat window and I can recognize you and unmute you. And I do not see any public comment.
All right. And I noticed during the presentation, I think Commissioner Leap has joined the meeting also. All right. This is open for Library Commission discussion. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say about the policies or ask any questions? No? Okay. Kristen, did you want to ask a question or were you just saying hello?
I have a question. In the past, the plan has been for 2 years. Are we now doing it yearly?
Yes, in 2019, the city council approved an annual work plan process. For any advisory bodies that were still mid 2 years, we were allowing those to finish out. And then when they do their next work plan, we're asking that it be annual. Good catch.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, anything? If not, thank you again, Ms. Herron, for attending our meeting and for your presentation. We all appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Chair. And again, thank you to all of the members. Appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Judy.
Judy.
Okay. All right, moving on to item D3, discussion, the Library and Community Services Department Strategic Plan 2020 and beyond. We have a staff report. Nick, are you going to, I think, make a presentation prior to opening it up for discussion and public comment?
Yes, I can. I'm getting my stuff lined up here. Let me share my screen. Here we go. We brought the strategic plan before the Library Commission in our October meeting. At that time, there weren't a lot of details. It was very drafty at that point. We've gone back and the strat plan teams have continued to meet. Two teams were meeting weekly for the last couple of months. I'm scrolling down here to get to the meat of the draft plan. So as you can see from this iteration of the strategic plan, we've got a lot more details filled in. And we just wanted to bring the details back because the sort of things that are getting filled in now are the kind of nuts and bolts of the plan. I mentioned in the staff report that the next phase of this is really taking a look at the goals, filling in tasks and performance goals. And then also taking a look at the entire plan, which is very ambitious and aspirational at this point, and sort of balancing out the starting dates for some of the tasks, or maybe deciding that there's maybe a little too much there. Maybe we'll have to shave something so that we can actually get them accomplished in a year. Most of the plan is to be accomplished within a year and a half. There are some longer goals that go outside of that plan period, but usually you don't want to have too many of those in the plan. So just reminding the commission once again, I'm going to go through fast, so I'm not expecting you to read this on the screen. There's 8 different strategic directions. The first one is delivering excellent customer service, and there are goals underneath that. The second one is advancing the Menlo Park Community Campus project, the new facility in the Bellhaven neighborhood. The third one is to provide services and programs that are responsive to community needs. The fourth one is efficient operations of systems and facilities. The fifth one is a strategic direction that really sort of centers around the people of the department, and that would be staff development, staff engagement, and internal communication. The sixth one is external communication, so robust, transparent, two-way communication with the community. The seventh is one that's new to us this year, if you were familiar with the library strategic plan from last year, and that is to commit to incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion in our programming. And then the last one is really about adapting to the times we're in and our reactivation and service adaptation plans. So that there's a lot of information there, and I sympathize, I guess, a little bit with you guys to sort of throw all of that on you. But if you have any questions, comments, for us, the plan is not final yet, of course. We're going to take it back after talking to the Library Commission. We're also going to take it to the Parks and Recs Commission later this week. and then bring it back to our staff groups again one more time before we sort of start to bake it into a final version. That final version will come to both of the advisory bodies for recommendation before it goes into place. So I think I'll draw it to a close there and see if there are any clarifying questions before we open it up for public comment and then a discussion. So any clarifying questions from any commissioners? All right. Back over to you, Chair Hadrovich.
Oh, well, I'm going to send it right back to you just to
Okay.
ask for public comment. You were
All
doing
right. Well,
great.
that was
So I thought,
one of
let's
those
streamline.
rebound ones. Okay.
Exactly.
If anyone has any public comment at this time, if you would engage that raise hand feature or tap a message in chat, I can recognize you and then unmute you. And I do not see any public comment.
All right, in that case, let's open it for Library Commission discussion. Does anyone have any comments that they would like to make? David, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the quick summary through there, Nick. There are a number of items. I draw your attention to 6.1D, which have starting dates which are in the past, and I won't say significantly in the past, but in the past, that suggest that there would have been some action between then and now, and then into the future. And that particular one says reporting out monthly to advisory bodies around your responsiveness to customer feedback. Is that something you have been reporting out on, or explicitly, or?
Right.
I can cover that. So that's the suggestion box, which was included in last month's department report. It didn't make it into this month's department report, but yeah, that's the vehicle. However, in the period, like from the beginning of the pandemic until just as recently as last month, it had become really moribund because previously it had been fed primarily by suggestions written on pieces of paper and dropped in a physical suggestion box.
Okay. I guess my broader comment was, with does it make sense if the start dates really were aspirational in the past to still sort of represent, did things actually start on the dates which are shown here? Now, sort of looking back historic,
Some of the dates are a little fuzzy and need to be really refined.
It needs to be tightened up a little bit. I think what happens is you're seeing me compile different versions of the plan over time. And so they might have been like today's date, for instance, back when that version was compiled, and it just sort of got carried over. So all of the start dates will end up being, if there are things we're starting to work on now, the start date of the plan. And then the start dates that are in the future will be when we plan to start something. Right now, they're a little all over the place because they're coming in from lots of different versions of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? I'm seeing your screen, Nick. I can't see if anyone has their hands raised. Perhaps you can, but along the lines of what David just said, I was thinking similarly, but more with the projections. This seems to be a very well thought out and ambitious plan. And I know that we've had so many different hurdles put up this year, both with staff reductions and decreased funds and ability for teams to meet in traditional ways different. And what I wondered more specifically is how do you think that this ambitious and well compilated plan is going to proceed? I know you're still putting it together, and so I think you're going to be bringing us an even tighter version in the future. But do you feel like there's some of this that's not realistic at all, or do you think that you're going to be able to have success with this plan on the timelines that are projected right now?
That's a great question, and it's one that's been a lot on my mind recently as we sort of compile it together. You don't want to. I don't want to encourage the team to make a plan that is something that we've already done, sort of things. I think it should be a little bit on the edge of what we can accomplish, because that's how we accomplish bigger and better things. At the same point, at the same time, you don't want to promise things that you have no intention of completing. And that's why I think those performance goals are really important, because you have to make it, for me, it's successful if you can describe how you're going to achieve all of those. And all of the team member individual work plans are going to tie into this strategic plan. So they really have to be, the goals really have to be measurable. Otherwise, we're not going to know whether we accomplish what we said we're going to accomplish. So that's a long way of saying that I think it's going to shrink a little bit, and some of the dates might extend out, but I think it will remain pretty ambitious. I mean, I think our library strategic plan was pretty ambitious, and we didn't get everything done in that library strategic plan, but we got a lot of them done. And I would say we got 75, 80% of the goals and tasks that we had set out for the year and a half period of that plan. The other thing is that we'll have a plan check-in. So it's not just sort of set it and forget it. Will change, as we know, having gone through the last 8 months, things will change as we move forward. And the plan is they say living document, they throw that around, but it really is. It'll change as we go forward. A lot of it might have to do with sort of what tier we're at as state opening. I mean, there's all kinds of things, budget, you know, the status of the city's budget, all kinds of things could play into changing some of these tasks or goals. But I think the strategic directions that we have laid out are pretty sound. Those are, and anxious to hear your feedback if they're not, those are pretty sound directions. Like those are the sorts of things that we really should be working on and working towards. And then it's just the details underneath that may shift a little bit. So I hope that answered your question. I kind of went around about a little bit there, but just to give you the idea that it's not, you know, they're not tablets that we carve in stone and then set up on the shelf. That's not very useful. It's a direction for the department, and I think it should be a little ambitious, frankly. So.
Yeah, my thought was it was very ambitious and really well thought out, so that you went through and really thought about and then wrote down everything that you would like to accomplish. And unfortunately, we're in such a unique year that some of that might be similar to the parking lot we have on our own agendas, where it's a really amazing idea and it's something that should be done, but whether it's practical for you to get it done this year, I think we'll all be looking at this, rooting for you to get as much done as possible, but certainly I think tolerant and understanding of the limits that we're all facing day to day, as we just don't know what's coming next. So anyone else, any questions, any thoughts before we thank you for this and move on to the next? No? Okay.
Well, just add in finally, it's not me who came up with all of the, I didn't just write it. I'm more of a facilitator and scribe for the plan. It's the team members that came together and came up with the ideas. And they're the folks who are going to be carrying it out. So, I mean, I'm cautioning them in the meetings not to make things up not to set goals that they're not going to want to carry out. And they've been very aware of that. So they're also aware of the limits that we're all operating under. So we'll make another pass through and we'll come back with a final plan for you guys to look at and recommend, hopefully.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, I think that was D3, correct? So we're on D4 now, which is to review, update our agenda with an understanding that we are not currently having a meeting planned for next month because, oh my gosh, we're at the winter holidays and almost through this year. So I think that I don't you, if you wanted to share the screen, I think we don't have anything on the agenda right now for January or February. Is that right?
That's correct. We don't at present. There are things that we could pull up there. I can think of a couple of things off the top of my head for January. First of all, I think it's probably good to check in about the holiday break. The regular meeting date is scheduled for December 21st. And in the last few years, because of holidays, we haven't held that December meeting. So just checking in to make sure that that's okay, that we don't hold that holiday meeting. Then in January, two things that are going to be coming back are probably the finished strategic plan for recommendation, but also the results of the RFP for a new integrated library system will be presented to the council in January. So those are two things that I can think of for January.
Would that be presented to the council before or after our expected January meeting? I think that you're getting all the bids by the first week of December. Is that right?
That's correct. It's the bid period closes on December the 3rd. And I think we were aiming for sort of middle of January. So it'll be sort of contemporaneous with your meeting, which is the 3rd Monday. So I haven't taken a hard look at the city council meeting schedule yet.
Is that something that we would need to look at before they do? Is there any compelling reason that we would have to see it first?
I'm not sure. Sean, do you want to weigh in on that? I don't know that there would be necessarily anything where you would say that you would need to see it. The staff are going to make a recommendation on a vendor and a system, which will have to be approved because of the size of the contract, would have to be approved by the city council in any case. But we would certainly bring the result of the RFP to the Library Commission for their recommendation.
Yeah. Although if we make, that's what I meant. Go ahead, David.
I just have a quick question.
David, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Looking at the calendar, the 18th, which would be the 3rd Monday in January, is actually MLK Day. So I'm assuming we're going to make it there.
Very, very good catch. Thank you. So normally what we've done is move it forward a week. So that would be the 25th of January. Is that correct?
That is the next Monday, yeah.
Well, first let me go backwards and ask just to see if we have a consensus. Is there anyone that feels that we should have a December meeting, given that we would be doing a Zoom meeting? Is everyone good with keeping the tradition of not having a December meeting? Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody didn't feel steamrolled by that. Okay. So then January, we would be going to the second Monday of the month instead of the 3rd.
I think 4th was the suggestion.
Oh, okay. So then most likely we definitely would be seeing the results of your of taking all the bids and your recommendation after city council does, I think.
Probably. The plan at this point is the first available city council meeting in January, which I think it's like on the 7th or something like that.
Okay.
Just a heads up to typically February, also the 3rd Monday is President's Day typically. So you typically go to the 4th Monday in February.
Right.
So to clarify,
Oh, go ahead, Mayrin.
So to clarify, are we in consensus that we're moving January's and February's to the 4th Monday. So that would be the 25th January and 22nd February. Yes.
Correct.
That's what it sounds like to me. And there are notices that I have to file when we move a meeting date. So you'll see those go out in January as an extra reminder. I mean, I'll probably be reminding you anyway, unofficially about the meeting date change, but there's sort of official notices that the meeting has been, you'll see a cancellation and then you'll see a special meeting notice. So don't get excited when you see the cancellation. Just wait for the special meeting notice.
Okay. Is there anything from individual commission members that you would like to see on the January agenda specifically? Or should we start off the year with whatever is timely at that point? We can build usually Nick sends me a chair draft at the beginning of the month that has the things he thinks need to be in it. And we can just visit then what is timely, and then start to plot out February and March as we get closer. Okay, does that work? David, go ahead.
Yeah, the conversation about the council and commission relationship. Have we done our plan review with the council yet?
That
And
has not occurred yet, and that's actually more on the council than it is on the commissions. I believe it was back on September 30th, the council went ahead and extended the time frame because they just don't have room on their agendas for the.
Right, and I wasn't so much. It was more about. So it's not a big rush when we find. I mean, is there a benefit to doing kind of just a interim sort of check and sort of build our story so that we finally get the notice we're going to do it, that it's not a scramble at the last minute, I guess would be my question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think you guys, the last work plan revision you did was approved in August, I believe. So you have a work plan that's operational. The council hasn't formally approved it, but I think what Judy was saying is they took all of the work plans and presented them sort of to see if anybody on the council would say, no, don't do that. And the council didn't do that. So I think you're operating under your current work plan, which you completed in August, until next August. It probably wouldn't hurt to do an update to council, but again, that really depends on the council. I think they have met so many times because of COVID and other sorts and budget things. They've met, I don't know how many times this year. How many weeks do we have in a year? 52, right? I think they had like 40 council meetings so far this year, which is crazy. So they just haven't had time to get to the commission work.
right. And usually it's invitational and they haven't extended that. Kristen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, how are we doing on our work plan?
Well, maybe we could put our work plan on January's meeting, and then we can take a look at it and parse it out and see where we are.
What do we need to do for it?
Well, we're going to put that on the agenda for January, and then we can discuss it then. Okay, does anyone else have anything else that they'd want to put on the agenda for January? Okay, then in that case, all right. Then it looks like we are ready to move forward to E, informational items. Informational items are transmitted to the Library Commission in staff's efforts to provide an update on matters of importance to the Commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. So E1, department updates, we have a staff report. And Nick or Sean, did one of you want to make that presentation?
No, I'll just mention that it's a pretty brief update. One just talks about the holiday closures for the rest of this calendar year, and then the other is just an update on COVID-19 and the status of the facility closures, which just in summary, we're still projecting the facilities being closed to the public through like spring of next year, most likely, just due to the unfortunate trends in the pandemic.
In
Okay.
summary, COVID still sucks.
Yes, and for a greater length of time than we thought it would need to at the beginning, unfortunately.
Nick, do you want to see if there's any public comment on those items? Do we still have a member
Sure
of the
thing.
public with us?
We do still have a member of the public with us.
All right.
Stalwart member of the public. Thank you. If you have any public comment on that departmental update, go ahead and raise your hand in the software or type me a message in the chat window and we will unmute you and allow you to make your comment. And I do not see any comment.
Okay, any discussion of either of those from anyone? Can we move on to E2? Is everyone good with moving on? Okay, E2, update Menlo Park Community Campus Project. We have a staff report.
Yeah, so just a quick update. I don't know if you were in attendance at the recent city council meeting where the next steps for the MPCC project were approved. But I thought I'd put the staff report here, and then I have a couple of slides. Honestly, it's 3 slides, which are sort of some timeline things just to kind of tie you guys back into what's been going on with the project. There's not a whole lot of new stuff other than the council action that happened since our last meeting. So let me just pull this up. Here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
It's let's make it a little bigger here. So the whoops, I went backwards. All right, can you guys see that? So the city council most recently reviewed the project funding. So there was some discussion about how to fund the city's obligation, the city's portion of the project. So the parts that were not being paid for by Facebook, and those primarily the pool, but also reinforcing the building structure so that it could serve as a Red Cross shelter. And then some kind of green enhancements. So the solar patio, not patios, what do they call them? The solar parking features, the extra battery backup system, and some green water or recycled water connections that would have to be built. So that's primarily what the discussion was about, was how to fund that. Then there was some talk about the interim services plan, which I'll talk about on the next slide. So just coming up, either December 7th or 14th are the next 2 planning commission meetings where the project will come before the planning commission and have some more details so that the planning commission can make a recommendation on the project. Moving towards hopefully the big meeting in mid-January, which is the council's public hearing on the CEQA determination, the project approvals, and entering into an agreement with Facebook for the construction of the project. So that's kind of the next big one. So if it is approved in January, then everything would sort of stay on this schedule, which is the facilities would close as if they'd be more closed than they are now in June. Then in July to August, you would have remediation and demolition. Then targeting opening a brand new facility in spring of 2023, which is closer than we all think. Just calling out a few things about interim services that were approved, the interim services plan that was approved for the Library Commission, because I thought it might be of interest to you guys. So senior services are planned to be provided on the Burgess campus. There was a telephone survey where the staff called up all of the current users of the senior program and all of the meal delivery participants. We got 111 responses, which was really good. And they were pretty overwhelmingly positive about they would come and use services if they were provided at the Burgess campus. The caveat there is that a lot of them would need transportation to Burgess. So that's the sort of the next step in the process. And we're working closely with the city's transportation department to sort of provide some enhanced shuttle services from the Bellhaven neighborhood over to the Burgess campus. For the after school childcare youth center, which is currently at Onetta Harris, they're going to have some portable buildings down sort of tucked back in the right-hand corner there, sort of on the parking area next to Kelly Field. If you're familiar with the Onetta Harris campus, there's a big soccer field that's behind the senior center, the pool, and the community center. And then there's some basketball courts way in the back there as well. We're talking about putting the portables pretty far back on that parking area next to the field, and then having a protected walkway. Most of the participants in the after school childcare program come from Beechwood School. So having a protected walkway so that they could get from Beechwood to the childcare center, the temporary childcare center facility down there. And then for recreation users of the Onetta Harris Center, moving those recreation classes to Burgess and expanding the offerings there, and doing some things like modifying the fee structure so that we would encourage more access and use of those classes. We would then also, of course, have to increase transportation options for folks to get them over from the neighborhood, Bellhaven neighborhood, back over to Burgess. So that's what I have on that. Happy to answer questions or hear your thoughts on that.
I know that it's not related necessarily to library services, but that is an ambitious transportation requirement. And is that feasible? Is that something that is going to be able to be met, transporting 140 seniors to and from Burgess on a daily basis?
I think we're going to plan to do that. I think we're going to make a good try. I'm not sure exactly how many of the folks. I mean, we had 85% of our survey respondents said they would take advantage of services at Burgess, but I don't know how many folks that will be in reality or in practice. So we'll have to see, and we'll have to adjust if we find that people aren't able to get over for whatever reasons. We'll have to adjust our plans to make sure that we are getting people over so that they can take advantage of those services. I mean, some of the things that we've been piloting during the shutdown period may still be in play through that interim service period, and those things are things like direct meal delivery. So instead of, we may have a hybrid where we're providing hot meals on the Burgess campus, but also providing some meal delivery service to seniors in the neighborhood.
David, go ahead.
Nick, I understand that the discussion is about moving the existing services from Onetta Harris to Burgess, and the people that would be involved with that. Is there any likelihood or is there expectation that people who say are closer to Burgess would then start going to that program during the interim time? I mean, we talked about like relocating the one service, but does it actually create a service for another population that would now take advantage of it?
I think there's a real possibility of that, especially since the senior services that are being provided by the city are located in the Bellhaven neighborhood. And you know, the city geographically is very long and skinny east-west. There is Little House, which is provides senior services. The Peninsula Volunteers Organization does that, but I think we might pick up some folks who don't take advantage of the senior services that the city provides in the Bellhaven neighborhood. We might pick up some new folks, which is kind of a nice byproduct of relocating them. But it also, you know, in our strategic plan, the staff are talking about expanding the scope of the senior services that are provided, to sort of rolling it out to more residents citywide, so that we get a chance to kind of pilot out a few ideas, and we'll see what happens.
Great. Anyone else have anything else they wanted to ask or comment on? No? Okay, then I think we can move on to E3, update, request for proposals, integrated library system and interlibrary loan system. And Nick, there's a report. Did you want to give us information on that?
Yeah, sure. So just to sort of let you guys know, that the report was released. Let me show you, mainly to let you know. I think we gave a staff an informational report on kind of our requirements for it. This was the part that I thought you might find interesting, is the sort of companies that we post the request for proposals on the city bid site, and a lot of companies kind of watch those municipal bid sites to find out when to make proposals. But we also are sort of proactively going out and contacting some companies, especially a few of these open source companies, Lime, and Equinox, the open library folks who use these open source software solutions for libraries. Just to sort of broaden our pool a little bit, we did contact, of course, the Peninsula Library System, or Peninsula Library Automated Network, which is the sort of IT part of the PLS system, and our current provider, which is Innovative Interfaces. So just giving you guys a heads up, and then also sort of a timeline for this, about when we might get proposals back, and when you might hear about who staff were recommending as a selection.
Great. And any public comment, do you think?
I'll ask, any public comment on that item on the ILS? And I don't see any public comment.
All right, any discussion on this item? David, go ahead.
Nick, is the intention for the PLS to expire and for the replacement or whatever the next thing, they're going to overlap, or there'll be no loss of continuity between them, or is the reality going to be there'll be a gap between the one, leaving the one and joining another one?
I hope there's not a gap, because that would be awful if there was a gap between. No, the plan is to engage a new ILS provider in January, and then immediately begin working on that transition. If you're going to migrate all that data over smoothly, you know how that can work sometimes when you're dealing with great big chunks of data. You have to make sure they're mapped over to the new system correctly. And that everything gets up and running properly in July of next year.
Oh, okay. The data being existing orders, or client or user history, or?
It's all the catalog information. So all of the bibliographic information about the different books and DVDs and everything else, as well as all the statistics, all the item information, and then all the patron data. So all of the records and, folks' borrower information and their borrowing history and all that stuff that you want to migrate over cleanly.
Yeah, and the length of time that will take really kind of depends on the vendor that's selected. So if, for example, the vendor that's selected is Plan, is the current Peninsula Library System, then that's pretty easy. There is no real change. If the vendor that's selected is Innovative, which is the actual platform used by Plan is sort of an administrator on that platform, then again, the migration's pretty easy because it's just the same platform. If we go to some open source model where we'd really have to migrate, then we would need all 6 months to really pull that off. So that's why we're trying to get this locked down by January.
Okay, anyone else have questions or comments, discussion on this item? No? Okay, then we are moving on to our last item, which is advisory body member reports. Any reports from library commission members since the last meeting? I can report that I did receive a nice message from the Menlo Park Historical Association president, who is finishing his year, and he gave me 16 different itemized details of things they've done, but they're moving ahead as best they can with their historical association day-to-day activities, month-to-month activities. But, you know, a big hit for them, the challenge has been that their office is at the library and they can't access it. So I think Jim does a great job as the president. I don't know who's going to be the president of the Menlo Park Historical Association in the future. Sean or Nick, do either of you know? No. So I might get that info from Jim, but at any rate, they have had a good year. And then I can also report from the Library Foundation. If you were listening to the City Council meeting last week, you might have heard our president, Elise Stern, come on and talk about the expectation that the Library Foundation would be able to raise hopefully some needed funds for that project's library plan. And also the Library Foundation did send out some pretty cool masks to all its members. So I don't know if any of you are members of the Library Foundation, but if you are, you should have received a mask. I think I have one, I just can't remember. I think we decided on the Born to Read logo on it, and really it is the best fitting mask I own. So I think those turned out really well. Anyway, those are my two reports related to the Historical Association liaison and the Library Foundation liaison.
Katie, since you were since you're liaising with the foundation, and also I assume we're involved with watching the presentation. They seem that the capital plan was largely focusing on library furniture. I mean, as they were trying to parse tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of the funding plan. And I guess it's maybe also to Nick and Sean. It wasn't clear to me how much of the budget really was stuff that was in scope for their capital campaign, because they weren't talking about throwing money at the whole project. They were looking at targeted towards the library aspect of the campus. Was that a correct interpretation of what they were proposing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's correct, David. That's the Library Foundation's mission is to raise capital funds for library projects. So by their mission, they only can raise funds for the library portion of the MPCC. However, there's been some talk about maybe they would stand up as part of a separate group that would do fundraising overall for the overall project, but it wouldn't be the foundation per se. it would have to be a different group because they're 501c3. You know, their rules are to raise money for the library.
Yeah, I did wonder if that got a little bit murky when I was listening to it as well. And I can tell you that when we have our foundation meetings, we are very clear that we're going to be supporting the library build itself, and I think the whole, and Nick and Sean can absolutely step in and correct me if I say the wrong thing here, but we have been stymied a little just by what is going to be the need within the library, given the Facebook very generous request. That certainly wasn't something that the Library Foundation saw coming back, I don't know, a year ago or so, when we were doing a case study and starting to put together the plan to go out to the community. So the Library Foundation has really been sitting back and waiting to see what is going to be the need. But we are planning on focusing on the library exclusively at this point.
Yeah, I'll just add something on that topic because it does get kind of complicated, this type of fundraising campaign. So it has been done and can be done to form a campaign, like a fundraising campaign committee that would potentially have folks from outside of the foundation as part of it. It's pretty common to form like a campaign committee. In fact, the foundation's fundraising study recommended that because there wasn't necessarily enough fundraising bandwidth just within the board itself. And so such a committee could, if the foundation chose to participate in it, raise funds for the library component or just for the overall project, you know, acknowledging that the library is an integral part of it and wouldn't be possible without the rest of the project. And the 501c3, the foundation, could potentially serve as the fiscal agent for any funds that are donated toward the project as kind of a pass-through. In that situation, some nonprofits will keep a portion, like an administrative, you know, percentage, you know, 5% or 10%. And in the case of the Library Foundation, they are an all-volunteer organization that have no paid staff, so they wouldn't necessarily have a need to do that. But that's one of kind of structure that is commonly used. But that's obviously a discussion for the foundation board to have. Just kind of getting back to the question, the original question, I think, was, you know, what is the scale of the fundraising need? Last week, the council looked at a scheme that basically kind of earmarked $1 million for, you know, fundraising or grants. So in kind of a general way. So that could be taken to be sort of a preliminary kind of target for any fundraising effort. So just to kind of give a sense of the scale, because I believe the rest of it, the council did, I think they made a decision to use Measure T bond money for the remainder of the money to be raised, which is approximately $9 million. So that's kind of where it stands as of last week.
Anyone else, any of the other liaisons have anything to report? Maybe not, that's okay too. Any other commissioner reports? Because if not, we are at the end of our meeting. So if there's nothing else, I think I can adjourn the meeting at this point. Thank you everyone for your participation. And
Thank
I'll
you,
see
everybody.
in January.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, have a great
Happy, healthy
Thanksgiving.
holidays.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Be well.
Be healthy.